Hi everyone, I'm Prof. O. In this video, I'm going to briefly introduce consequentialism. Consequentialism is a normative ethical theory. Normative ethics are a branch of philosophical ethics that deal with questions about how one ought to act in a moral sense. Consequentialism is a type of teleological theory. Teleological theories are theories which describe our responsibilities in terms of our attainment of certain goals or ends. According to consequentialism, a morally correct act is one that produces a good outcome, because as the name suggests, the normative properties depend only on the consequences of an act. As such, the better or more good consequences that an act produces, the better or more right the act. Classic utilitarianism is one popular form of consequentialism. Utilitarianism is most associated with its famous proponents, Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. Essentially, utilitarianism states that people should maximize utility, which is a term used to refer to human well-being. You will often hear utilitarianism summarized by the phrase the greatest good for the greatest number of people, meaning specifically that an act is good if it produces outcomes that are good for the greatest number of people. Now, although the phrase is helpful in understanding utilitarianism, it is not exactly accurate, because it is possible for an act to increase utility for a majority of people or a greater number. However, the net utility or net good in the world could still decrease if the smaller number of people lose much more than the greatest number of people gains. Utilitarianism is not the only form of consequentialism. Other forms include hedonism and Epicureanism, egoism, altruism, or act consequentialism and rule consequentialism, among many, many others. Though there are many theories that can be considered consequentialist, broadly speaking, the similarity among all of them is based on the idea that an act can be right or wrong based only on the results of that act. As you can probably imagine, there are some key problems with consequentialism. While there are many arguments against consequentialism, I am going to highlight two of the most common. Common criticisms of consequentialism include that it is very hard to predict and understand the scope of consequences prior to an action being taken. If behavior is based on whether the consequences of an action are good, and we can't accurately assess the consequences of an action ahead of time, then we have inherent challenges to the application of the ethical approach. Now, let's say even if we could accurately predict the consequences of every particular action, it's hard to find agreement on what exactly should be assessed. Is it happiness? Is it pleasure? Is it satisfaction? Or is it something else? And if it's any of those, happiness, for example, well, how exactly would we measure it and measure it in a way that is accurate and meaningful? This was a very brief introduction to the topic of consequentialism. There is so much more to the area to study broadly, and also within each of the particular theories most associated with consequentialism. It's a rich area of study with lots of discussion and debate. Thanks for watching.